Over the last couple of weeks, we've been hearing that the election is rigged. All this talk about the machines were hacked, that dead people voted. I don't know how that happens, how did dead people vote. And people who weren't citizens were voting, and who knows, I really don't know. But the fact is, I heard so many times, it's rigged, it's rigged. A lot of things are rigged. The devil is the major rigger. He rigs his allurements and his traps and his snares and his temptations designed just to get us, to trip us up. Isn't that right? But I'd like to talk to you this morning about the rigging that takes place with money. It's a pretty rare occasion when I talk about money. And one of the reasons why I don't talk much about money is because I think people are expecting there'll be an offering taken up, and I don't do that. But the text that the children have this morning happens to be 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter, and it deals with money. Sometimes money is rigged in such a way. Let me give you an explanation. When I needed money, the banks would not lend it to me. When I had money, they wanted to lend it to me. Now, there's something rigged about that. But that's the system. It's a rigged system, and it's in their favor, but that's the way it works. Paul tells us to beware of the love of money. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. There is nothing wrong with money. Money is amoral. It's neither good nor bad. You can do good things with it and you can do bad things with it. But you need it to pay the bills, right? We all need money. You need money to pay the mortgage payment. You need money to make the car payment. You need money for the rent. You need money. You need money to put food on the table. Money is what keeps our body and soul together. Got to have money. And so we need to learn how to handle money. There are some limitations that money has. For instance, money can buy a bed, but it can't buy sleep. It can buy medicine, but it can't buy health. It can buy books, but it can't buy brains. It can buy a house, but it cannot buy a home. So there are things, and although we live in a society that believes that money is all-powerful, is omnipotent, the truth is that money can go just so far, but then it falls short. For the love of money, Judas betrayed Jesus. For the love of money, looting took place in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit. People were dying all around and losing everything they had, but they were still breaking into the stores and taking whatever they could. Money causes people to sacrifice their health. And some people go to an early grave because they are so in love with money that they do things that harm themselves. And so you might find them in a coronary unit with a fistful of banknotes, but their health is gone. And so Paul's giving us a warning about money, because it's something about money that does something to our thinking. And that's why I'm talking about money being rigged, because it does some strange things to the way we think. You may not remember this lady because you weren't born at the time, but this is Hattie Green. Hattie Green lived in the turn of the century. She was the first most wealthy woman in this country. She made a lot of money in the stock market. She was rich beyond the imagination of people at her time. But she was so entranced by money that in the winter she would not turn on the heat, and she padded her clothes with newspapers to keep warm. She bought newspapers in the morning, read them, and sold them in the afternoon. Is there something wrong with that? She was wealthy. She had nurses, but she would not allow nurses to wear uniforms because she didn't want to pay for the uniforms. And when Hetty Green died, she was worth $100 million, but never enjoyed it. She loved it so much she shouldn't or couldn't and wouldn't part from it. Money can twist our thinking. It can do stuff to our head. Believe it or not, this fellow wore this T-shirt and says, "Please, Lord, let me prove that winning the lottery won't spoil me." Well, he must have meant well. I would suggest that he buy a ticket. I mean, if he's going to go to that far to wear a T-shirt, he should buy a ticket. But what is little known about lotteries? Nothing wrong with winning the lottery. You know, it would be wonderful if we all won the lottery. But the statistics are strange. People who have won the lottery have actually hurt themselves. The statistics say that within 2 years they lose all the money they got. Some people have actually gambled away all of their winnings. Some lottery winners had an overdose of drugs. Some committed suicide. You wonder what in the world was going on. Why would some were actually sent to jail for not paying taxes? Now, if you got that kind of money, you ought to be able to pay the tax, because the IRS agent is going to get it one way or the other. It's almost like the IRS says, what did you make? What did you spend? Whatever you have left, send it in. And so just as wonderful as winning the lottery may be, winning the lottery can cause some crazy thinking to take place. Paul is saying that the love of money is the root of all evil. And when he's saying that, he's talking about what the love of money does. The love of money creates greed. And if you are greedy, you cannot be satisfied. In fact, it's impossible to be satisfied if you're greedy. If you're greedy, you will be dissatisfied. And yet the Bible tells us that we need to learn how to be content. Let me explain what I mean by it. The love of money creates a dissatisfaction, and I'll put it in the simplest terms. Johnny was so happy because he made 50 cents allowance every week, until he found that his friend Jimmy was getting $1. And now the comparison caused him to go from happy to unhappy, because comparisons can do that. The system is rigged. Something's wrong with somebody who is happy with what he's got, only to discover somebody's got more, and then they immediately become unhappy and dissatisfied. And Madison Avenue and Wall Street are determined to get us to part with our money to get it to them. They figure out all kinds of ways to get into your pocketbook. And not only is it Madison Avenue and Wall Street, but even supermarkets have strategies to get you to spend more money. Did you know that they make bigger shopping carts because they have proven that people will spend 40% more if they have to push a bigger cart around? When you go to the supermarket, you'll discover, you say, where's the preaching? It's coming. I'm just setting the stage here, but they put the essential products in the back so it gets you to walk through the store, and maybe your eye will catch some product to pick up and take with you. They pipe in music to lull us into They put the products that they want you to buy at eye level on the shelf. The cheaper products are at low. So when next time you go through the supermarket, look down and you find your products a little cheaper on the bottom. Some supermarkets will give you samples to get your taste buds excited, and they figured if your taste buds excited, they somehow get you to spend more money. Then you finally get all finished buying whatever you got to buy. You get down to the checkout counter, and there's candy. And the kids see the candy. Now they're going to make up a scene, and they're going to start crying to embarrass you, to buy the candy, to shut them up. That is all strategy. It is all designed. Brothers and sisters, the system is rigged, and we are the riggies. Paul sends out a warning. He said, but those who desire to be rich, now it's nothing wrong wanting to be rich, but he says this, those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare. There are traps out there. And into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. The word for destruction is the word that is used to describe an apple that is rotten. When an apple is rotten, you can never make it ripe again. And that's the kind of destruction that Paul is talking about. You got to be careful, because you can do things on your way to become wealthy that will end up harming you. Let me just give you there's warnings on everything. You get a bottle of medicine, there's a warning on it. Electricity is a wonderful thing, but then there's warnings about high voltage. Those are good warnings. Paul is saying if you want to become wealthy, that's fine, but let me just share with you that there should be a warning label on the issue, because you can make some bad decisions. To pick a career because there's big money in it is to set yourself up to become dissatisfied in life. And lots of people have done that. And what's this? Keeping up, the whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses. Who are the Joneses that we're keeping up with? We try to keep up with the Joneses. Well, the Joneses are driving this, so maybe we ought to drive that. And the Joneses are doing this, maybe we ought to do that. And the Joneses have this, so maybe we ought to have that. And here's the bottom line. We will go into debt chasing after the Joneses who are already in debt. What kind of sense is that? And so Paul gives us a little advice along the way. If you want to get rich, there's nothing wrong with getting rich, but you got to be careful. There's some pitfalls along the way, because people have a tendency, when they fall in love with money, they want more. And when they get more, they want more. I tested this out with the dogs. When I first got Lady, all I had was a 6-foot leash. And I noticed that Lady wanted 7 feet. I went out and got a 16-foot leash. And Lady wanted 17 feet. I actually went to the hardware store and bought 50 feet of rope, thinking this is going to be great at the park. And Lady wanted 51 feet. You can't satisfy the urge of greed. Once greed gets in, there is no end to what greed is going to grasp for. And that's just a simple illustration to describe what happens when we become greedy when it comes to money. That's why Paul says the love of money. Nothing wrong with money, but it's the love of money that can create all kinds of difficulties. This is what the scripture says to us now. Godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. There's no doubt about that. And then he says, and having food and clothing, with these shall be content. It would be wonderful if we could be content with who we are. Half of the stresses that we go through in life would evaporate if we came to the place where we were content This is who God made. This is how God made me. I'm going to be content. There are people that live their lives from month after month, after year after year, wishing they were somebody else when they overlook the fact that God has made them the way he has made them, and they can't find contentment with that because the grass is always seems to be greener somewhere else. If I could only find contentment in who I am and with what I have. I guess it would be better to say this: be content with what you have now. The Lord may open doors for you to have more later, but it's important to be content with what you have right now, or else we live through that difficult period of dissatisfaction and discomfort. Then Paul has a word for those who are going to be rich. Command those who are rich. You're already rich. You got the coins, and you got the net worth, and so command those who are rich in this present age not to be haughty, not to trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who gives us richly all things to enjoy. It's okay to be rich. That's what I say. Bless his holy name. That's okay. It's important to know it's temporary. Say that word with me, temporary. It is very, very temporary. When Sun Life first got started, we had a vice president. His name was Roy Hughes. I didn't know it at the time, but later on he was talking with me when we went out to dinner. He was telling me that he was worth $7 million because he invested in the oil industry. And then the oil industry crashed in the 70s, and people long lines. Remember the long lines? In 1 week, he lost $6 million. He was down to $1 million. Now, he took it gracefully, and it seemed to me like it didn't bother him enough. But the point is that what we have is only temporary. It could be here today. It could be gone tomorrow. It's important to know that if you have it, having it does not make a person more spiritual. Some people get the idea that, well, so-and-so has got all this money, so they must be closer to God than me. That's crazy thinking. That's why the system is rigged. We get the feeling that if the person has it, that means that God's blessing is on them and they must be more spiritual. That is foolish thinking. That's not accurate. It's crazy thinking. We don't become more spiritual if we have it. And there's another thing that I noticed. I was watching television years ago, when Elizabeth Taylor was alive. She was on a talk show, and they asked her this one question that just threw me. They asked her, tell us, what do you think makes a happy marriage? And I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm falling off the couch. You're asking somebody who's been married 7 times and can't get the thing right, and you're going to ask her what makes a happy marriage? Why? Because she is so wealthy, and she was incredibly wealthy. But just because you're wealthy doesn't mean you're so smart. You could be wealthy and dumb. Solomon was wealthy. He had 700 wives. Ask him, what makes a good marriage? Ask him in front of his wives. Maybe it'd be better to ask his wives. I think the bottom line is, if we've got it, we need to learn how to enjoy it, because God has given it to us, and it comes from the Lord, and he has given us all things to enjoy. So I'm going to learn how to enjoy what it is that God has given me. This is crazy rigged thinking that people have, that if you're wealthy and famous, there must be something real special about what it is you do and what it is you have, so they want a piece of your fame. When Jackie Onassis Kennedy died, the wife of President John F. Kennedy, then became the wife of Onassis, the Greek tycoon. When she died, they put up her estate, some of the things that she owned, for auction. She paid $200 for a fake necklace. And at the auction, they received $211,000 for that fake necklace, because they are wealthy people that want a piece. They just want a piece of the fame. Got to be something wrong with that. They had a stack of magazines that were worth nothing. And they got $12,000 for that. Is there something rigged about that? Is something crazy about that? They had 3 throw pillows that were auctioned off. There's just 3 silk couch pillows, and they auctioned off for over $25,000. Onassis bought Jackie an engagement ring and paid $500,000 for it. They auctioned off the ring, and it brought in $2,600,000. I figure I'm going to auction off, but you got to be famous in order to cash in on that. I mean, if you're famous, everything that you touch turns to gold. Shakespeare's signature is worth $1 million. If you could find his signature somewhere, it's worth $1 million. The love of money is the root of all evil, because it twists our thinking and makes us think thoughts that are not true. And sometimes it really ruins a person's life. The Bible says this: the earth is the Lord's and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell therein. Everything belongs to the Lord. The air you breathe is His. The water you drink is His. Now, you may have to buy that bottled water, but the water is His. The food, the crop, the sunshine, it's all God's. It's God's. And He has given us these things to enjoy. We need to start spending a little time enjoying the things that God has given us and not get on that merry-go-round trying to hunt for something that is an elusive dream. And some people get and some people don't. I learned a little bit about money when I was a little kid. I didn't even know I was learning about it. But when we were little kids, we used to play Monopoly. How many ever played Monopoly? We used to play Monopoly, and I found myself wanting to be the bank. And so I was playing with my cousins and my brother and a friend, and I would always finagle my way to become the bank. Because even when I lost, I had all the money in the bank. That's how a little kid was thinking. All of those $500 bills, those golden $500 bills, I had control over those, even though I lost. Something is wrong with our thinking when it comes to money. Am I right about that? I'll tell this story about Macy. This happened, you may not remember it, but Nancy took Macy to a Disney store. They used to have all these Disney stores around, and at the back of the Disney store, they had a mound of all of these furry animals. A little girl picked up one of those furry animals, and Macy saw it, and she took it and said, "It's mine." There were hundreds in a pile. And then I came across this. It's a toddler's guide to property. And I think it's the kind of thinking that we might have when it comes to things. A toddler's guide is, if I like it, it's mine. If it's in my hand, it's mine. If I can take it from you, it's mine. If I had it a little while ago, it's mine. It's mine. If it's mine, it must never appear to be yours. If I'm doing or building something, all the pieces are mine. If I saw it first, it's mine. If you are playing with something and you put it down, it automatically becomes mine. And then, if it's broken, it's yours. There is a rigged system going on that we get caught up in, and we don't think properly, and that's the way greed thinks, and it starts as we're little children. I mean, I would like to go back to talk to that little kid that was playing Monopoly with his cousins and ask him, why do you want to beat a bank you're losing? Giving is healthy. I'm going to tell you a story. This man was the first billionaire in the United States. At 23, he became a millionaire. At 50, he became a billionaire. 3 years later, he was experiencing pains in his body. He could not digest normal food. He was put on a strict diet of milk and crackers. That's all he could digest. The doctors examined him. He was wealthy. He had all the doctors he needed. They couldn't explain why he couldn't sleep. He didn't smile. And his life was empty. He's a billionaire. He had a dream one night. All the details of the dream are not clear, but when he woke up, he called his attorneys into his office. And he said, I'm going to start giving money to hospitals and research. And they did. It was because of his efforts that they actually discovered, or it was part of the discovery of penicillin and also the cure of several different kinds of diseases. And my mother told me that she heard that he used to drive down the Lower East Side in Manhattan and throw dimes out the window. And in those days, dimes could buy something. The doctors gave him up and said that by 54, 1 year later, he would be dead. Until he started changing his way and he started giving away some of his money, wisely, but giving it away. John D. Rockefeller lived to be 98 years old. He was supposed to die at 54. He attributed it to the fact that he started giving. Now, those of you who know me know that we're not going to be taking up an offering because that's really not the issue. This is the issue. Whatever you have, God has blessed you with. Share it. Share it with those who need it. Not just fling it out, just share it thoughtfully and carefully. When you touch another life with the blessing that God has blessed you with, you have blessed them. And you bless yourself again. The issue that Paul is dealing with in 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter, is this, is the love of money, which creates greed, which creates discontent, needs to be dealt with, because we need to learn how to be content. And we start by being content with what we got. It is much more important to be content than to live your life discontented. One way to become content and to learn how to become content is to spend a little time thanking God for what you have. You say, well, that is so simple. That's right. You came to church to hear something real simple today. To be thankful for what it is you have. And a lot of what we have has been given by God.
To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things He has done.
If we can learn to be content with the little we have, then we will be content when we get more. But If we cannot be content with what we have, bringing more to it doesn't bring contentment. I've got to figure out how to be happy with what I've got right now in order to ensure the fact that I will be happy when I get more.
Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ.